It begins with a quiet morning, a hot cup of coffee, a gentle sunrise stretching over the quiet roofs of the suburbs. And then, the pharmacy gates close forever. The trucking routes freeze. The electrical grid hums its final dying breath and goes completely dark. Suddenly, your reality shifts. The anti-reflux medication you are taking right now is silently destroying your stomach's natural ability to absorb vital vitamins. You have been told it is a cure. It is not. It is a modern trap, leaving you entirely dependent on a fragile supply chain. The pioneers of America did not have glowing blue bottles of stomach medicine. They had to eat heavily salted meats and rancid fats that would destroy a modern digestive tract in a matter of days. They survived by drinking concentrated plant saps. History proves these wild saps create an unbreakable biological armor, physically protecting the delicate stomach lining from its own burning acid. We are looking at the ultimate central conflict: fragile modern convenience versus unbreakable ancestral continuity. Plant number 3 on our journey was treated like a highly classified wartime asset. Plant number 1 quietly generated immense household wealth with zero manual labor. And tree number 9 produces a thick, miraculous gel that instantly soothes any burning sensation in the esophagus. If you're someone who wants to protect your health with natural foods that have been proven effective throughout history, don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we compile valuable knowledge every week. Let us dig deeper. The pioneer's anchor, catnip. Most modern minds dismiss this mighty perennial as nothing more than a trivial toy for house pets. That is a dangerous underestimation. In the harsh winters of the American frontier, this plant was a matter of life and death. Historical apothecary records reveal that frontier women cultivated massive hedges of catnip to relieve violent small bowel spasms. When a family consumed improperly preserved meat, the resulting abdominal cramping could bring a grown man to his knees. Catnip acts as a powerful antispasmodic. Modern clinical studies suggest the volatile oils hidden within its jagged leaves penetrate the smooth muscle tissue of the intestinal wall, commanding it to relax. It forcefully stops the cramping. But the true dominance lies in its brutal economic conversion. Catnip is an unkillable perennial. You plant it once, and it spreads with aggressive force. A single 10-foot row easily yields over 40 pounds of dried medicinal leaf in a single season. Replacing the equivalent amount of pharmaceutical antispasmodics would cost a family over $600 every winter. Instead, you harvest an endless supply of digestive armor for free. It stands strong in the harshest deep freezes. You can survive a winter on dried meats. But what if the heavy nature of survival food causes your stomach to swell and halt entirely? That brings us to plant number 2, the centurion's quencher, fennel seed. Long before the era of brightly colored gas relief chewables, Roman soldiers marched across continents carrying pouches of fennel seed. Imagine the physical toll of marching 20 miles a day, fueled only by heavy grain rations and questionable water. Bloating and gas were incapacitating. A soldier who cannot digest his rations falls on the battlefield. Fennel seed quenches extreme bloating instantly. Chewing these small, rigid seeds releases a powerful surge of anethol. This organic compound acts directly on the stomach lining, relaxing the gastrointestinal tract and allowing trapped, painful air to dissipate harmlessly. It is an instant biological deflation mechanism. Let us look at the mathematics of survival. Fennel is an architectural plant that mocks poor soil. A single garden bed dedicated to fennel yields up to 50 pounds of dried seed. That is enough to stock your family's apothecary for a decade. It operates as a relentless inflation shield. When the cost of basic medicine doubles, your backyard continues to produce hundreds of dollars worth of premium anti-bloating compounds for 0 pennies. Clearing a locked stomach is only one part of the equation. What happens when extreme, prolonged stress causes your stomach to produce excess acid, literally eating itself alive from the inside? That brings us to plant number 3, the trench defender, licorice root. During the darkest days of World War II rationing, when modern medicine was diverted exclusively to the front lines, civilian populations faced a hidden epidemic. Extreme psychological stress triggered massive waves of acid reflux and peptic agony. Licorice root was treated as a vital asset. Herbalists used it to coat the stomach wall, preventing acid from destroying the digestive tract of citizens living under the constant terror of air raids. We are not talking about modern candy. We are talking about the thick, woody root. When prepared as a decoction, it forms a soothing anti-reflux barrier, Modern clinical studies suggest licorice stimulates the stomach to produce its own natural protective mucus. It commands your body to build an invincible shield against its own digestive fire. The economic anti-fragility is staggering. A single half-acre yields up to 2 tons of raw medicinal root. It is highly productive for 25 years. You plant it once, and it serves your grandchildren. It saves your family thousands of dollars in gastroenterology visits and synthetic acid blockers. Yet, even with a shielded stomach wall, inflammation can slowly erode your digestive health. A burning irritation that refuses to fade. That brings us to plant number 4, the monastic blanket. Chamomile. Picture the stone walls of a 12th century abbey. The winter snow is piling high against the heavy wooden doors. Inside, the monks are brewing a golden, fragrant liquid. Chamomile was not considered a weak bedtime tea. It was a heavy-duty, anti-inflammatory blanket for the bruised stomach lining of the peasant class. When the poor had nothing to eat but rough, scratchy grains, their intestines became violently inflamed. Chamomile extinguished that inflammation. The microscopic oils within the flowers contain potent agents that wash over the stomach lining, physically reducing redness and swelling. It acts as a cooling wash for an overheated digestive engine. It is the perfect biological reset. The time and money return on investment is a masterpiece of nature. Chamomile is entirely self-seeding. You step out your back door and harvest thousands of blossoms, replacing expensive over-the-counter liquids with a crop that literally plants itself. But chamomile is gentle. What happens when you face severe pain? What happens when you need to numb the body, but modern painkillers threaten to tear a hole straight through your stomach? That brings us to plant number 5, the swamp's aspirin. Meadowsweet. The modern medical industry has convinced you that to relieve joint pain, you must swallow synthetic pills. But read the black box warnings. These pills violently strip away the protective lining of your stomach, causing massive irreversible ulcers. The pioneers faced back-breaking pain every single day. They needed pain relief, but they could not afford to destroy their stomachs. They turned to meadowsweet. This tall plant is the ancestral source of salicylic acid, but nature is far smarter than a laboratory. Meadowsweet naturally binds its pain-relieving compounds with powerful stomach-protecting tannins. It delivers the pain relief of a modern aspirin, but simultaneously coats and protects the stomach lining. It is a biological paradox. The economic conversion is brutal and beautiful. Meadowsweet thrives in damp, useless, swampy soil, where nothing else will grow. It turns your worst, waterlogged patch of property into an apothecary, yielding hundreds of dollars a season. It transforms useless wasteland into a permanent, inflation-proof supply of safe pain relief. Pause. Think about that. Stop the list. Listen to me very closely. We are talking about plants, yes, but we are actually talking about something much darker. We are talking about absolute survival. Imagine the reality of a total supply chain collapse. It is not science fiction. In a true grid failure scenario, the grocery stores are stripped bare in exactly 72 hours. The supply lines of your synthetic stomach medicines vanish overnight. If you are currently tethered to a chemical bottle just to digest a normal dinner, what will happen to you when you are forced to eat heavy, salted, preserved survival rations? Your stomach will fail, your intestines will lock up, your core biological engine will break down, and in a survival situation, a broken gut is a death sentence. You cannot gather strength. You become a liability to your family. You must reset your belly now. You must build your biological armor before the storm arrives. With that reality clear in your mind, let us return to the historical apothecary. Because what happens when the very lining of your intestines dries out, cracking under the strain of a harsh winter diet? That brings us to our next crucial element, the forest's lubricant. Deer antler mucus. The ancestral gatherer understood that the forest provides biological armor in many forms. In historical traditional practices, early spring foragers sought out the velvet of the deer antler. When boiled down over a slow, open fire, this harvested resource produces a rich, deeply lubricating mucus. Our ancestors recognized that the human digestive tract requires constant lubrication to push rough, unrefined foods through the system. When a pioneer family survived on dry grain and dehydrated jerky, their intestines suffered immense friction. The gelatinous broth created from antler velvet acted as an internal slip agent. It coated the walls of the intestines, healing micro-tears and providing a slick barrier. From an economic standpoint, Foraging this resource is the ultimate bypass of the modern medical monopoly. In today's clinics, restorative mucosal treatments easily exceed $400 a session. By gathering what nature freely sheds, you extract premium intestinal armor for zero cost. But what if you cannot forage? What if you must grow your internal bandages right in your own garden beds? That brings us to plant number 7, the apothecary's bandage. Marshmallow root. Do not picture the white, fluffy campfire treats. Picture a towering, ancient plant with roots that dig deep into the moist earth. For thousands of years, marshmallow root was the ultimate internal bandage. When an ancient farmer developed a severe ulcer from spoiled food, they did not have a surgeon. They had marshmallow root. When you crush this woody root and soak it in cold water, it releases an incredibly thick, viscous slime known as mucilage. When swallowed, this heavy gel physically drops down the esophagus and paints the entire stomach wall. It fills in the raw, burning craters of an ulcer. It blocks stomach acid, allowing the tissue underneath to finally heal. The survival economics are undeniable. A single established bed produces over 100 pounds of deep root. A single harvest will save a family at least $600 a winter in synthetic stomach coaters. You dry the roots, keep them in a jar, and you possess an eternal, inflation-proof pharmacy. But the danger of the wild diet is not just acid. It is the twisting, agonizing cold of poor digestion. That brings us to plant number 8, the Appalachian frost. Peppermint. High in the Appalachian Mountains, winter winds trapped pioneer families inside their cabins for weeks. Movement was limited. Diets consisted of dense root cellars and salted meats. This stagnant existence resulted in unbearable, sharp gastrointestinal cramping. Peppermint was the ancient biological trigger to force the digestive system back to life. It is not just a flavor, it is a medicinal sledgehammer. The high concentrations of menthol act as a local anesthetic for the stomach lining. When consumed, it literally numbs the microscopic pain receptors in the gut, providing a cooling, icy relief to an overheated system. It aggressively stimulates the flow of bile, forcing the stomach to break down heavy animal fats. The economic mathematics are almost unfair. Plant one single cutting, and within 2 years, it will aggressively conquer an entire garden bed, yielding 50 pounds of volatile oil-rich leaves. It costs absolutely nothing to maintain. It replaces expensive digestion aids with a crop providing a 100% profit margin forever. And yet, all of these plants lead to the undisputed king of ancestral digestive medicine, the ultimate, invincible shield, the boss item. Slippery elm bark. When the early American pioneers pushed westward into the wild, unknown frontier, they encountered tainted water and unimaginable physical stress. Agonizing ulcer pain and raw, bleeding esophagi were common. In the middle of the wilderness, they turned to a quiet, unassuming tree. Slippery elm bark is the holy grail of biological stomach armor. When the inner bark is shaved down and mixed with a splash of water, it instantly transforms. It swells. It becomes a thick, heavy, soothing gel. When swallowed, it coats the entire esophagus, laying a thick, nearly impenetrable blanket over the entire digestive lining. It extinguishes raw ulcer pain in the field, instantly. It traps harmful bacteria. The brutal economic conversion of the slippery elm tree is unparalleled. A single mature tree can sustainably surrender up to 20 pounds of inner bark without dying. That translates to over 2,000 individual doses of instant pain relief. Buying 2,000 doses of modern ulcer medication would bankrupt a family. This tree provides it for free. It yields for 50 years, creating an unbroken chain of generational wealth. But a coated stomach still needs a chemical engine to process food. That brings us to plant number 10, the bitter engine. Dandelion root. You have been brainwashed by modern landscaping companies to poison this plant. You have been lied to. In the historical apothecary, the dandelion was revered as a premier digestive engine. When our ancestors ate a meal heavy in dense animal fats, their livers struggled to break it down. The intense, shocking bitterness of the dandelion root is its superpower. That bitter flavor sends an electrical signal directly to the brain, commanding the gallbladder to dump a massive load of bile into the stomach. This biological chain reaction violently breaks down heavy fats, preventing sluggish, rotting digestion. Financially, the dandelion is the ultimate rebellion. It is entirely free. It has a $0 planting cost. Yet, Harvesting the deep tap roots provides a bile-stimulating brew that replaces $50 a month pharmacy habits. It is absolute economic dominance hidden in plain sight. And finally, what happens when the stomach suffers internal trauma? What happens when you are bleeding and the hospital doors are locked? That brings us to plant number 11, the battlefield clotter. Yarrow. History tells us the mythical warrior Achilles carried yarrow into battle to pack the bloody wounds of his soldiers. But its true power lies deep within the human gut. During extreme survival situations, violent food poisoning can strip the intestinal lining bare, causing internal bleeding and severe trauma. Yarrow is the ancient biological astringent. When consumed as a strong, dark medicinal brew, it acts to tighten and tone the tissues of the stomach and intestines. Modern clinical studies suggest its unique compounds slow bleeding and tighten cellular gaps in the gut lining. It acts as a biological tourniquet for internal digestive distress. The return on investment is absolute resilience. It thrives in bone-dry, drought-stricken soil. Reaping a harvest from a yarrow patch means replacing costly first-aid medications with a perennial flower that laughs at the harshness of a changing climate. We have just unlocked the 11 keys to the ancestral iron stomach. But simply knowing their names is not enough. You must build your decentralized biological grid. Do not just plant a garden. Build a fortress. Here is your 4-step framework for absolute ancestral continuity. Step 1. Fast wins for morale. You begin by planting the aggressive spreaders. Catnip and peppermint. You need to harvest within the first 60 days. When you see these plants exploding in your yard, you stop being a consumer, you become a producer. Step 2. Calorie anchors for security. Move to the heavy lifters. Fennel and dandelion. These are the engines that will process the heavy, imperfect survival foods of a broken supply chain. Step 3. Perennials for insurance. Plant the deep-rooted protectors. Licorice root, marshmallow, and meadowsweet. They require patience, but yield heavily for decades, creating a biological savings account that ignores inflation. Step 4. Legacy for the future. Finally, you plant the trees. Slippery elm. You plant this for your grandchildren, establishing a permanent source of high-grade biological armor. You are standing at a crossroads. Look at the glowing blue antacid bottle in your cabinet. Look at the chemical ingredients you cannot even pronounce. Are you team convenience, entirely dependent on a fragile, collapsing system that wants you sick, compliant, and constantly paying for temporary relief? Or are you team continuity, ready to sever the chains of the medical monopoly and forge an iron stomach from the raw power of the ancestral earth? The choice is yours, but time is running out. If you want to plant once and harvest for decades, if you want to discover the exact, unkillable perennial food crops that will feed your family even when the grocery stores go dark, click the video on your screen right now. Nature never forgets how to survive. Make sure you do not either.